Good evening. It is 7:37. We will do the pledge and go into our meeting. It is February 7th.
United States of America, Republic for which
Trustee Fritchie.
Present.
Trustee White.
Present.
Trustee Casada.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lopez.
Present.
And Mayor Levin.
Present.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Mayor and trustees announcements.
Okay, going to my right. Announcements. Okay, going to my left. Announcements.
Nope. I have none.
Okay, I have one little thing. Let me bring it up, please, that I just got before I walked in from our friend Harry Campbell. Just wanted me to announce, if possible, that during the Black History Month, where there are many, many events, one such event that I've actually not seen, so I'm glad he sent it to me, is that the NAACP will be showing the movie Black Wings about Blacks in aviation. It's February 28th. Let me get the date here and where. Ossining Public Library, February 28th, 6:30 to 8:30. Yes, that's it. So I don't know if we have it. I don't know if Jamie has sent. You did. Okay, so it's in there. Fabulous. Okay, so we want to talk about that. And I said it before, there's a lot of functions going on, lots of events from Bethany to the library to the school. Obviously NAACP to educate us in more detail about Black History Month and American history at large, because that's what this is really all about. And also a happy New Year to folks in our Asian community, Chinese actually. Year of the Dragon, very big year. Dragon's a great lucky sign. So with that, I think we're ready to go.
Administrative reports. Village Manager Karen Dottori.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am glad to announce that our pool project is on track. The water is in the pool, and in a few short weeks, you will be swimming. So we're and still anticipating a March 1st opening. We will have a temporary mobile locker room and restroom during the time we're waiting to finish the locker room portion of the project, but we will get you in the pool March 1st. All looks good for that, so we're happy to announce that. Last week, Assistant Village Manager Maddie Zahach, Water Superintendent Andy Teese, and I attended the Drinking Water Source Protection Program kickoff meeting, and this is a planning grant that is being implemented by the planning and engineering firm H2M. And the goal is, it's an intermunicipal project. We're working with the Village of Ossining, the Town of Ossining, Croton, and Newcastle to develop plans and hopefully implement plans to protect the Indian Brook Reservoir, our secondary source of drinking water here. So that's a very interesting project, and we're glad to be working with our colleagues from different municipalities to make sure that the Indian Brook Reservoir is clean and stays that way. And I'd also just like to report that, as many of you know, we have implemented a parking program in the Main Street area, and it's going well. But again, the change is hard and things are new. We will be implementing new signage that will make things a little clearer. We're making some changes to accommodate a few different things to make things easier for the businesses, the property owners, as well as residents alike. So be patient with us. We will be getting a kiosk too that will allow people who for whatever reasons don't want to use the app or can't use the app to be able to pay without using the app. So those changes are all in the works. It is not easy to get things right the first time, but we're working on it, and we are we want people's feedback. So please feel free to call me at Village of Ossining with any comments or questions or concerns.
Thank you.
Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening, folks. Two pieces of legislation to make the public and the board aware of, one of which goes into effect on Sunday, which deals with credit card surcharges, legislation that was signed by the governor in December. I'll read basically the beginning of a handout that came from the Department of Consumer Protection for the Department of State, and then I'll give you some examples. But basically, it said that on December 13th, the governor signed a law relating to credit card surcharges effective February 11th. The new law serves to increase clarity regarding the cost of credit card expense for businesses and surcharges for customers. What will make it easier is they give a sense of practical guidance. So, as they write, just because a business has posted signs to make consumers aware of an additional fee, it does not make it compliant. These practices and the following examples do not comply with the law. First, that a business would post a sign on the door and at the register stating an additional 3.9% surcharge will be applied for credit card surcharges, for credit card purchases. That will no longer be allowed as of Sunday. Next, the business has a 4% cash discount incentive built into all pricing and posts a notice stating that any purchases made with a credit or debit card will not receive the cash discount, and an adjustment in price will be displayed on the receipt, also not permitted. Next, a convenience fee, service fee, administration fee, a non-cash adjustment, technology fee, processing fee, etc., is charged to credit card users and added as a separate item on a customer receipt. Again, not permitted. And finally, if it would say something like the price tag of an item shows $10 plus 4% at paying with a credit card, that's not allowed. They also do tell us, though, what would be allowed if you go into various locations. For example, the business will list clearly both the credit card price and the cash price. The business lists the higher credit card price for items and services and offers customers a discount for paying with cash. And finally, the business will charge the same price for cash and credit transactions. Now, what's interesting about the law is that localities can enforce the law themselves, and any fine that they recover is the locality's money. The fine is up to $500. So that's something that's in there. The county itself hasn't passed anything else with regard to this just yet, but it is important to note that merchants will have to start doing this. And that applies not just to folks on the store. The village is going to have to do that with regard to it because it is also considered a seller as defined by the general business law. So there are things that are going to change with regard to that, and that goes into effect on Sunday. The other piece of legislation, which goes into effect on March the 20th, yes, Mayor?
That one. So what are people supposed to do when they walk into their local store and they are doing that? Who is enforcing all of this?
Again, the village can enforce it. As the law says, the provisions of the subdivision may be enforced concurrently by the Director or Commissioner of Municipal Consumer Affairs, Town Attorney, City Corporation Council, or any lawful designee of a municipality or local government, and all monies collected shall be retained. We may need to adopt a local law that specifically authorizes whatever group we want to do to enforce that, but the village can enforce it, and if they do, any fine that is imposed, and it will be a civil penalty, would be money that directly goes to the village.
Okay.
The second legislation, which goes into effect on March the 20th, is something that many of you folks may be familiar with if you have ever sold a home. Many of you know of what's called the Property Condition Disclosure Statement, also known as a PCDS. And generally, if you're selling a home in the state of New York, you as the seller have to provide that. If you don't, currently under New York law, you are required to give the buyer a $500 credit. As of March the 20th, there is no more credit. The statement is now mandatory, and the statement is now, in fact, has been expanded to include questions with regard to flood damage, flood concerns, environmental concerns. It is now if I'm looking at it correctly, the statement now has 56 questions to it and some other disclosures. Presumably, if you're selling through an attorney or a realtor, they will know about this. But all sellers and buyers should be aware. Buyers who think that they're getting their $500 credit after March 20th, you won't get it because by state law, that will now be impermissible. But what this is also designed to do is to make the buyers aware of, in this case, really environmental issues with regard to the property that you're purchasing. So both of those are now on the books, one starting Sunday, the other starting March the 20th. Thank you.
Police Chief Brendan Donahue.
Good evening. Our most recent news, as you might have seen on social media or the mayor's weekly message, is that we received 2 brand new hybrid police vehicles in our new black and white color scheme. We've never had a black and white color scheme for the village of Ossining. The town of Ossining did when they existed as a police department back. But it's a new design for us, and we're very excited about it. The officers and the public have been overwhelmingly in favor of the design and really like it. We think it's a very attractive design. We received another brand new car yesterday that'll be going to the upfitter and getting done up the same way. We're excited for that. Secondly, we have 10 police officers who will be counting as staff within the next several weeks. In our 6 transfers from New York City and Hyde Park. They are finishing up their orientation period in the next several weeks. And then our 4 officers that went through the Westchester County Police Academy will be finishing up their field training. So by the end of the month, we will have 10 police officers that are in training today that will count as staff at the end of the month. So we're very excited about that, not only to have fresh new faces, but also to allow us to do a lot of the things that we've had to cut down on a bit. We're going to be assigning a SRO, a school resource officer, back to our elementary schools, which has been lacking. We will also be reinstituting a special patrol operations unit or conditions unit to address those occasional issues that come up from time to time, neighborhood safety concerns about traffic incidents or quality of life issues. And these officers can focus their attention solely on these issues to really focus the enforcement, which also frees up the rest of patrol to continue their regular duties. So we're excited about that. And we're also working to develop relationships with other police agencies in the area to not only share staff, but also share other services and equipment to not only be good neighbors to our neighboring jurisdictions, but also to share our successes and our strategies, our recipes for how we've done things here very well, and to learn new things from them. And one such partnership that we're looking to move forward with is a combining of our SWAT team with the tactical unit from Peekskill PD. Lieutenant Majorana has done an awful lot of work on this. It's something he's very passionate about as a officer who's come up through our ranks as a SWAT operator, and he's now our SWAT commander as administrator for the tactical unit. And if the board is amenable, the lieutenant has a short presentation to discuss this intermunicipal agreement.
Okay. Hello, you need to be near a microphone.
I'm sorry.
Otherwise, people on Zoom.
I'm sorry. All right, good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so if we could get the slideshow going, I can go on with my spiel. All right, so go to the first slide. Ossining and Peekskill have each maintained a tactical team since the early 1990s. The term SWAT is we're moving away from that. We are an emergency response team. We go out when there's an incident that general patrol can't handle. But we've each had some form of a tactical team since the early 90s. Pictured there in the center, standing, is former Captain Scott Craven. His beautiful blonde hair that he no longer has. I also see that he missed the message from everybody else to have a mustache for the picture. So these tactical teams are prepared to handle exceptional incidents that are typically beyond the scope of normal patrol. Next slide. So in 2010, New York State combined all the curriculum. There's a bunch of different SWAT programs that you can go through. They basically combine the curriculum and set a standard and set what they call accreditation. We're an accredited police agency. They have accreditation for tactical teams. So they started that standard in 2010. 2018, the Department of Homeland Security made it mandatory if you wanted to get grant funding, you had to be an accredited tactical team in order to receive grant funding. 2014, go to the next slide. So 2014, Greenberg became the first New York State accredited tactical team. Two other agencies jumped on just after that. We got ourselves together in 2020, and Peekskill became an accredited tactical team just last year in 2023. A very lengthy task, I can assure you. I was the person responsible for our team getting accredited. There's a lot of standards that have to be met. There's certain curriculum that has to be covered every year as far as training goes. And there's a lot of documentation that's involved in it to document what we do, training that we do, equipment that we have, the equipment that we use, how it's used, etc. So that brings us to current. Currently, to be an accredited team, you need 18 officers from top to bottom. Okay. You need a tactical commander, team leader, 10 general purpose operators, 4 marksmen. You guys can pretty much read that off that, but from top to bottom, 2 crisis negotiators. It takes 18 people to be a standalone for Austin to have its own tactical team. Next slide, please. So 18 plus 18. My math is a little crazy, equals 24. How does that work? Should equal 36, right? So next slide. Your consolidated team, it only requires 12 officers per job, opposed to 16. Each municipality can save 5 people. That would obviously save money. As you can see, you need a team commander, 2 team leaders, one per agency, 7 general purpose operators per agency, 4 marksman observers, and crisis negotiators, so 1 per agency. So it would be a savings of manpower, training, etc. Go to the next slide, please. This is the equipment that we have. We have an armored vehicle or a rescue vehicle. It's not a tank. Some people refer to it as a tank. Basically what we would use to go in and get people out in a hostile situation. It would protect us and it would protect innocent people from means of egress. Peekskill has a command post. We have hydraulic breaching equipment, robotic observation equipment, flight surveillance equipment. Getting a drone by the end of the month that's been purchased off of grant money. Thermal imaging and communication. It can help us in patrol.
But we had a drone. Don't we have a drone?
We don't have one with thermal or communication equipment. This has a phone built into it, and it also has thermal imaging.
Okay.
So if we had a hostile situation, you can introduce that into a room. It has a phone in it without putting a body in that room. Most of our tactics are designed to de-escalate things, use face-to-face confrontations. Still has a K9 unit. All right, next slide, please. So the benefits to us or to either agency. Part-time, we're not a full-time SWAT team. We don't turn out every day in SWAT uniform, but we go through extensive training. The school itself is a month long. So an officer goes out to this month-long school, comes back with this training, and he works patrol 9 times out of 10. Only during those exceptional calls where he's a SWAT operator. Other than that, he's just a normal patrol officer. You have him day to day on the road, answering calls for service. So you have a much more highly level trained officer on your day to day. In the event that we have one of these exceptional calls for service, it's less of a strain on the patrol force. We're only sending 7 guys, and Peekskill is only sending 7 guys. One agency isn't losing 18 people. Okay. Accreditation isn't anything else. We have a set standard that the state sets that we have to meet. Highly trained. We shoot our weapons 8 times a year. The state requirement for a police agency is once. So we're well more trained beyond the requirements of New York State for a patrol level officer. But it tends to, because we're trained in de-escalation techniques, we're trained in using pieces of equipment like the drone we just spoke about, reduce the face-to-face confrontation, reduce litigation, and awards from any potential litigation. Because of the accreditation, this agency, Austin, our municipality, has received over $165,000 in federal funding from the Department of Homeland Security. Wouldn't be eligible to have that if we were not an accredited team. And if you are a multi-team, you get these grants. We get automatic 10 points if we're a multi-jurisdictional team added on. So in other words, if you applied for the grant and the top score was 100, we can get 110. Those are the benefits to it. Next slide. About all my spiel. If you have any questions or concerns or whatever, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, this is great. Thank you. Wasn't expecting it. I see it's sort of under the administrative report, so that's cool. I'm sure there are questions. I love the fact that you did the benefits, but I'm also wondering if there's benefits, if there are downsides that we should know about, whether they're big or small. Because it's not up there. But are there any downsides? Are there any? Is there a cost issue? Is there
It's only cost savings? There wouldn't be an additional cost issue.
Okay. So you see no downside at all to going with Peekskill?
I don't. We are similarly staffed agencies. They have about 60 cops. We have about 60 cops. They are facing similar issues with manpower as we've been. Somewhat resolved those, but it's a strain. 18 cops on a 60-man job is almost a third of your patrol force involved in this. Difficult to maintain. I think it's important that you the best cops on patrol, best cops at your disposal. I think this is an easier way to do it and a more fiscally responsible way to do it.
Well, let's open it up. Anybody have questions or comments or?
Thank you, Lieutenant. So, first, I'm curious to hear more about why you're moving away from the term SQUAT to emergency response.
I think it's more of an outdated term. It comes from LAPD in the 1970s. I don't think it really actually reflects what we do. We're similar to like the fire department's fast team. And when things get really, really bad, we're the guys that can go in and calm things down, slow them down, and 9 times out of 10 peacefully resolve them. We haven't had an incident, violence of that magnitude, eons. It's just an outdated term. I think it puts a picture in people's head and it doesn't really depict what we do exactly.
Super helpful. Can you tell me a little bit about the ratio of police officers that are interested in this kind of team and the kind of slots that you have open? So is there more demand than supply of spots? Tell me a little bit about that relationship.
Now, yes. With the new guys that we just brought on, there's a big interest in it. They're new. Some of them have seasoned time, but I mean, you want a cop that, in my opinion, you want a guy that knows the basics before he starts doing the advanced stuff.
Right.
You need a good foundation in answering normal calls for service, going out there handling an emotionally disturbed person on the street, being able to handle that before you got to crawl before you can walk, before you can run.
That makes sense. Why is there a reason why Peekskill? Why not another community?
They have very similar demographics to us, same size patrol force. Resemblances are striking. Our community in Peekskill, and I was just talking to people not about this, but in regards to something else, but he said our community and their community, and you mentioned Portchester's very strikingly similar.
Is there ever a world in which you would expand to include a third jurisdiction?
Well, and the other reason we went to Peekskill is they have an established team that's already met the state accreditation standard. We are in Zone A of the county, which is Northern Westchester. We're the only 2 teams in Northern Westchester.
Wow.
Accredited at this point. If other agencies would like to, I wouldn't be adverse to it. I think it's a great resource. When you have a cop that's part-time tactical guy, answering calls for service and knows how to de-escalate things, how to use all this equipment, it's a plus, big plus. I'm new as a lieutenant. I've done it for 9 months now. But when you're on the road and you want to call, just simply clearing an alarm call and there's an empty building and we have to go through that space, just clearing it with somebody that's trained at this level is much safer, much easier. It's like a sigh of relief. You talk on a call like that and you're like, oh, okay, this is good,
Is there ever a time when you're called to support another community, given the fact that it's so limited? And
as an accredited team, we could be. We have never been as of thus far, but we could potentially be called. White Plains, Yonkers, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle. FBI could call and ask us. That has happened. That was Township Fort as an accredited team.
Is there any additional or difference in compensation from officers that are trained in this?
No.
That's all for me. Thank you.
Anybody else?
You, Lieutenant.
Thank you guys for your time. I'm sorry.
No, it's very helpful because that mutual aid comes handy with a lot of municipalities around us that we have done that before, and municipalities have done the same thing to us. So to answer some of the questions that I was going to ask in relationship to other municipalities, there's no really other municipality that's credited at this point. So that limits sort of my question. But you talked about grants.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about right now and in us.
Yep.
And paying example of $100,000. Now we are combining two entities itself. Is it still $100,000 grant for Austin?
Well, that's
$1,000 now for each municipality.
That figure's cumulative over the course of 2 grant cycles,
which is fine. That's what I'm saying. But even if it's $50,000 or $20,000 grant, let's say it's a $20,000 grant, does the $10,000 goes to skill and the other $10,000 stays with us? Or is it 20 and 20 more or less?
It would be one award. To answer your question, the way we have an intermunicipal agreement written up that's already gone to Corporation Council to review. I'd be in charge of it, so I could dole out where that money would go. Some of it inevitably would be shared amongst the organizations. The state is having a big push for shared services, which is one of the reasons they give 10 additional points to multi-jurisdictional team. They see the benefits in sharing resources like this, and there's an initiative for it.
Is the key word for now? We're sharing whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
You are getting a benefit, and they are getting. I don't see a downside, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get more grant money towards us.
Yeah,
but okay with sharing. Our sharing.
Yeah.
Level. The other question that I have is more or less the accreditation. Now, the accreditation portion, and so I'm assuming you having this conversation with us, assuming counterparties and skill are having the same their board.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they've had that conversation yet, but I know it's planned.
Okay, so something that because we can say yes, but they can say no.
I know that in speaking, Steve, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I can comment that if you'd like. In this process, part of what we did was we took the sample IMA and actually sent it to our respective corporation councils. And Peak School was so full steam ahead that the chief was actually collecting signatures, not realizing that we still had to discuss the IMA some more. So they do appear to be full steam ahead and going at this. They've now since seen we are on the third and we believe final draft, having gotten input from both corporation councils and then also New York State having weighed in on some of their best practices in terms of IMA. So we feel that we have a good final product now. But yeah, if anything, they're a half step ahead of us in terms of being ready to accept it.
That was saying that our mayor also actually sort of one of them or what is.
Yes, they are aware, and again, I'm not aware of any opposition. It does seem like everyone is sort of on board with this. If I could just comment on a couple of the other questions that you folks had. In terms of sharing grants, there is definitely the potential for having to share a grant. At the same time, as the lieutenant said, we're going to be potentially receiving grants that we might not otherwise get. That 10-point boost is a big deal and will qualify us potentially for larger grant numbers. Also, while splitting the grant, it is for the one unified team. So it is still for an us, not a us and them situation. I would like to just also put a footnote on the fact that, we use the term SWAT guy, just sort of blanket term, but actually Peekskill does have a female tactical officer. So it is SWAT guys and gals. And, they are generally our most elite, in shape, tactically intelligent, really excellent officers. Another benefit of parsing down bringing down the number for us is that we have the ability to maintain that elite status of officers rather than having to maintain that 18 number. we can focus on choosing the 12 best. And through attrition, we can land on that 12 number and not feel the need to push someone who may not be exactly the right fit and find the 12 exactly right people. And then finally, you asked about assisting other agencies. There is also a Westchester County team. So generally, when agencies require a tactical unit, unless they have a close relationship with a neighboring agency, generally they would count on the county police. The county police having the resources and teams as part of their model to support the entire county, which is sort of their how their bread and butter and how they justify themselves other than highway and county resources. So they would likely be the first call in a lot of these situations. It's a very proud thing for us in Peekskill that we have our own resources that are really equatable to that county level resource.
Thank you. Sort of that was to answer one of the questions that I have. I mean, because right now we have a for the emergency. I was going to ask, how are you guys going to out
through attrition?
Well, I'll let you take care of that part of the dilemma, I guess, for me, because everybody that wants to be there is so there, sure, and off that part. Squad. I'm actually happy.
Okay.
Yeah, just so the number 12. And
Yes, sir.
like I say, you have 18. You're going to hold 12. Like you referenced to the fast team, we always have 14, 15, 20, in the hole, and whoever gets there goes. I'm not into your logistics. I'm just saying you're not just going to hold 12 people because you never know.
No, well, I mean, you do have to account for somebody being sick, injured, vacation, at a different training. They could be away at a training for SRO officer or whatever, because they're wearing many hats. So you want to keep it the same way we staff patrol. Keep a little bit extra so that when we pull somebody out to be an SRO, we have an officer to plug into that place in patrol.
Okay. And then moving forward, once the IMA is in place, this is a team effort every time.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Next steps.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, we were on that.
No, I actually was curious about logistics. So if you have a call, people come from Peekskill and Ossining to the location. How does that work? Like,
how do we call out, or where do we meet, or what?
Yeah, I guess how do you know who comes from Peekskill, who from Ossining? How many? I assume you all know where to go. You get the same call.
We have a roster of people that are trained up to this level, and in the event of a call out, simple as pressing a button at the desk, notify. Right now, it just notifies Ossining. It would be extending it so that it calls the other agencies, the other officers for Peekskill in this example, and we would set a designated staging area. Typically, it would be our headquarters or their headquarters, but it could be a firehouse. It could be behind Stop and Shop, where we meet up and plan there, go out and take care of the mission from there.
Peekskill is 10 miles away, right? But I guess you can get there pretty fast.
Yeah.
In a special car.
Yeah, it's relative. Maybe we don't have jet planes, but yeah.
And the next steps are?
The next steps are we sign the AMA and then we get the paperwork to Albany for accreditation. That's usually about a 2 to 3 month process for them to review everything and make sure that we meet all the standards. I don't imagine this round it'll be as difficult as initially becoming accredited because we're familiar with some of the processes, but it's going to be a matter of having both municipalities sign off on it, and then sending it up to Albany for review.
Okay. So Stuart, you're working on this IMA?
Yes, almost all done. We're just waiting to hear back from Peekskill.
Okay. Then who signs it?
Village manager would sign. There will be a resolution when we have it all set up.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Organizational announcements. Announcements shall be event related, shall be no longer than 2 minutes in length. Is there anyone on our virtual Zoom? Okay. So we'd like to remind everyone, if they want to speak during these next few sessions, to please raise your little yellow virtual hand, and And okay, public comment on agenda items. Visitors shall be accorded a 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any resolution on the agenda. Does anyone in our virtual world want to do that? Thank you. And visitor recognition. Visitors shall be accorded a 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not relating to the agenda, but relevance to the common good of the village. No one there either? Moving on to board resolutions. Approval of minutes, January 17th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the January 17th, 2024 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, could you tell me who moved it?
Second was Manny. First, I
Oh,
think. Was
Annie was first, and then, okay. Trustee Casada and Trustee Fritchie. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes, January 24th, 2024 special meeting. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the January 24th, 2024 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any
All in fa-
comments?
Any comments?
Sue?
I apologize. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Richie, did you abstain?
Yes, I did.
Okay, So,
Oh, okay.
I moved too fast.
Second.
Okay.
So we'll do it over?
Yep.
Okay.
Do I have
Who's-
a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the January 31st, 2024 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Voucher detail report, January 7th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated February 7, 2024 in the amount of $910,698.95. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any
All in favor?
comments?
Oh, sorry.
Sue, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Removal of certain properties from sewer rent charges. Whereas the Village of Ossining Code, Section 12-42 defines that sewer rent is a monetary charge imposed by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining upon users of the sewer system and computed on the amount of water the users consume. And whereas the Village of Ossining's Department of Public Works and Finance Department determined that 9 parcels located on Cedar Lane in the Village of Ossining have been reported as users of the village sewer system, when in fact these 9 parcels utilize septic fields and are not on the village's sewer system. And whereas since the 9 parcels are not users of the village's sewer system, parcels shall not be charged for sewer rent. Now therefore be it resolved that the village treasurer is directed to remove the following parcels from the village's sewer rent charges: 139 Cedar Lane, 141 Cedar Lane, 163 Cedar Lane, 165 Cedar Lane, 167 Cedar Lane, 169 Cedar Lane, 171 Cedar Lane, 173 Cedar Lane, 175 Cedar Lane, and be it further resolved that should any of these parcels become users of the village's sewer system, sewer rates will be imposed to Chapter 212, Article 8 of the Village Code. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
License agreement, 58 Ferris Place. Resolved that upon review of Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign a license agreement with Martin Farrell and Lauren Rapucci, the owners of 58 Ferris Place, 89.16-2.66, for the replacement and reconstruction of steps and the retaining wall of the property, where a portion of the steps and the retaining wall encroach upon village-owned property, and be it further resolved that the owners shall apply for all the necessary permits of the work. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I just want to ask a question. Stuart, in this, I was expecting probably wrongfully. There's a license agreement. In the past, we've done like some monetary agreement. Not doing that with this?
We discussed that last week.
And what do we decide?
No monetary.
There was
No monetary?
There was no monetary. We have had others where we have not charged monetary either.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
And I'm going with no on it as well.
Call for a public hearing, proposed law 2024 entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 226, Special Events, Parades, and Public Gatherings of the Village of Austin Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 p.m. on March 6, 2024 at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider the proposed local law 2024 in 2024, yeah, entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 226, Special Events, Parades, and Public Gatherings of the Village of Austin Code, and be it further resolved that the proposed local law amends Chapter 226 by adding the fourth event level, clarifying the insurance requirements for sponsors and vendors at special events, providing an appeals of decisions of the Special Events Advisory Committee, and specifying when refunds will not be issued, and be it further resolved that the members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location. Be further resolved that those members of the public requiring special reasonable accommodations to participate in the public hearing due to a person's disability shall notify Corporation Counsel no later than 7 days before the public hearing, kahan@villageofaustin.org, to afford the village sufficient time to provide reasonable accommodation, and be it further resolved that those members of the public who want to attend, participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available through Zoom platform, and be further resolved that the comments regarding the proposed law will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofaustin.org. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? I just want to say that I did get one call from someone that wanted to know, and it's something that I'm interested in. I know that we're a separate municipality from the town, but I know that we've also talked about when it comes to the event, especially since a couple of our parks like butt up against each other, it's confusing to people. Wanted to ask if anybody knows that our policies are exactly the same, and if they're different, where there might be, or if we can for the public hearing, maybe list that out for folks so they see differences if there are any.
I think that it is important for people to remember that they're two separate municipalities, and that the town's guidelines for their special events are on the town website, and ours are on the village website. The town guidelines are specific to any town location. That's all detailed on their website. They can also, while each event policy is implemented through the rec center, it is clearly, there's a clear path for each event. So once you apply for an event at a certain park, it automatically will revert to whichever municipality that it's in.
Right. So would you say that there are differences to your knowledge?
There are differences to my knowledge.
Okay, I misspoke. I thought that the town copied ours, and maybe that was
the town. These are changes that we're making to ours that the town is aware of, but they have not moved ahead to make those changes in their policy. So that's whether they do or not. For the most part, the policies are very, very similar, but there may be certain differences.
Exactly the same.
They're not exactly the same.
All right. So that's actually the more accurate answer, which I'll answer after the meeting tonight. But it's something that it's close, but it's not exactly 100%. So that's just good information to have. Okay.
But again, just so people know, when they apply, depending on what park they apply to, the rec center will know whether it's town or village and will apply those regulations automatically.
Okay, we're in the middle of vote. Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Extension of preferred developer status for WBP Development LLC and St. Catherine Group, Inc. For Main Street and Market Square parking lots. Whereas the Board of Trustees, by resolution approved on November 2nd, 2023, authorizing the village manager to enter into a letter agreement designating WBP Development LLC and St. Catherine's Group Inc. as the preferred developer for village-owned properties. And whereas at the first period of exclusivity of the preferred developer of the property ran for 180 days from November 10th, 2022 to May 9th, 2023. And whereas the November 2nd, 2022 resolution provided in part that the term of the preferred development status will be 180 days, which term can be extended by mutual consent of the village and preferred developer. And whereas the period of exclusivity subsequently was extended for an additional 180 days through November 5th, 2023. And whereas the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees, WBP Development LLC, and St. Catherine's Group Inc. want to extend the period of exclusivity for an additional 180 days until May 3rd, 2024, to facilitate the continuing public engagement, due diligence, and action towards completion of an acceptable plan for the redevelopment of the property and drafting and finalization of necessary contract documents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the period of exclusivity detailed in the November 2nd, 2022 letter agreement will be extended to May 3rd, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, so I'm fine with this, but I'm disturbed by the word for public engagement because I'm not sure how much public engagement they have done about where we are. It's been quite a while. So is this time allotment are they committing to more public engagement before May? Or is that just, the verbiage that I'm getting tangled in?
We do plan to do public engagement. I think that one of the challenges that we're balancing is that, we've done public engagement for this project in conjunction with the DRI planning. Right. If I don't know that we'll necessarily get to public engagement specific to this by May, but we might. But I think that we will be doing public engagement around this project. We're trying to balance the amount of projects we have and the sequence of them so that the public engagement is not years apart from the execution of the project.
So I would be in agreement with that, but would there be any problem taking that word out? Because it feels like a bit of a statement that it will be done since it's in there. And if it isn't for sure going to be done, then why have it in there? And have somebody hold this to us and say, you promised us public engagement, but you didn't deliver on that. Is there a problem with just removing that word and amending
All
it?
I can say, Mayor, is that's what the resolutions have said on each time before. If the board wants to take that out, it's the board's call.
The other thing is that I think that it's safe to say that we will be talking about this project in conjunction with the other projects before May 29th. I'm sorry, May 9th. 2023. So I don't 24 rather. So I don't think it's inappropriate to keep it in. And we can just be cognizant of the fact that that was in the resolution. I think the likelihood is we'll be doing additional public engagement subsequent if this is renewed again.
So to answer my question, is there a problem with taking that out so it's not in amending it for this?
Actually,
okay.
So I haven't.
Well, that's what Stuart said. It's up to us. I'm just asking.
Yeah,
I want to be specific.
There's no problem with taking it out.
But if I feel like it's a commitment, and public engagement isn't just discussing. I mean, it's a big piece of property in the middle of the village. People are going to expect us to have real engagement, insights, not just included in something else. So. I just hate to have them then have that held up. And if we don't have to have it, why have it? If you have public engagement, then you have the public engagement. Everybody's happy. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, that was my only question about the comment section.
Stuart, to refresh my memory on this one, this is the third.
Yes. Third extension.
So, Karen, assuming you've been talking to the particular developer, what has happened in the past 3 times as in forward?
So part of what's happening is we really are sort of sequencing this. We know that we're sequencing this because we have to do the multimodal site and other projects before then. So there's no real delay on their site. It's just more that they really can't move ahead till we start the process for the multimodal site. So I assume now that we're getting that started, this will start. But it's really been a function of the DRI timing.
Okay, fair enough. So that was going to happen. That's my question will be, because we know 6 months and we're talking about May.
Correct.
That's going to have time, staff.
You can only do 180 days. That was
That
your
would be the max.
resolution.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Never mind that question. So I'll be happy to remove that.
Just that one word, I think. The extension is, hey, listen, we put the stake in the ground, which is the most important thing. And frankly, we've talked about this. We've got a couple of dozen of items. We're not going to rush just because we say we want things. We're going to do things intelligently in the right sequence as much as we can. I'm okay with this. This is fine for me. Just I don't like the overcommitment. That's all. So anybody have a problem if we just take that single word out?
No, it kind of stopped. It kind of stopped me too. I mean, May's like around the 180 days. What are you going to be able to do?
Yeah, I mean, okay, as long as nobody objects.
And is that a priority
The
right now?
labor.
I don't know.
No, but it's 180. The days are running out, so you got to, got to do the resolution. Everybody okay? All right, so let's just do that. Amended for the word and.
So do I have a motion for the amended resolution?
Yeah. We're in the middle of it, so.
No, now it's amended.
Right.
So
you need a new
Mr.
motion.
Mr. Fritchie, would you
I will
it again?
so move it as amended.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Okay.
And second by Trustee White?
Well,
No,
Manny just did the second.
Oh, Manny did the second. Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Fire Department appointment. Austin Hose Company number 1. Resolved upon recommendation of the fire chief, Zelma Ramirez, Austin, New York, was elected as an active member of the Austin Hose Company number 1 for exterior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any continuing business of the board?
Anybody?
Right.
Any new? I think there's new business. Is there not?
There's new business of the board.
Thank you. So one of the things that has come up is the governor has really this is part of a nationwide effort to address the housing crisis, but there is through Homes and Community Renewal in New York State, they are soliciting municipalities to apply for pro-housing status. One of the benefits of pro-housing status is it enables you to get grant funding. Currently, the grants that we have previously won and are being considered for do not require pro-housing application, but going forward, certain grant funding streams will, and that would be for DRI and the Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund grant. Because we have a Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund grant pending, although we're not necessarily required, it probably would be a good idea. We were advised to file a letter of intent, or at least to evaluate whether pro-housing made sense for Ossining. Having read the qualifications, we meet all the qualifications for pro-housing based on what is currently in the pipeline and planned and anticipated for development. So this does not commit Ossining or the Village of Ossining for anything beyond what is already planned and in the pipeline. However, obtaining this status would be helpful potentially for the grant that's pending, which is the $10 million grant for the water treatment plant, as well as any future grants. So we'd like to file a letter of intent, and I just wanted to let the board know that that would be the first step. We will continue to do due diligence on this and ensure that there is no commitment that we cannot or do not want to make in obtaining this status, but probably it's in our best interest to do so.
So this needs a board approval, right?
We'll have a resolution. I don't think for the letter of intent it necessarily needs a board resolution, but were we to do the application and finalize it, it would.
Right. So what is it that made you believe that we already qualify? What are the qualifications?
It's one of the primary qualification is a 1% increase in total number of in housing units. When we did this analysis last year when we were evaluating the housing compact, we will meet that criteria of a 1% increase. And I think it's also a 3% increase over the past 3 years, which I believe we meet that as well. It's an either or. So I don't see any indication that we would not qualify based on what we're doing currently.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, can you elaborate on pro housing?
So there is a great concern at the county level and the state level, as well as the national level, that we're experiencing a shortage of housing. And we're seeing that reflected in housing costs and rental costs. Last year, the governor wanted to mandate certain things for development, and that did not go over very well. So this year, rather than mandating municipalities do something, because that was not well supported at all, this is a way to encourage municipalities to continue development, increase development if necessary. So there is a bonus given, similar to what Lieutenant Mayorano talked about. If you become, if you do intermunicipal services, there's incentives from the government. This is an incentive to be developing additional housing. Those are things that we are doing right now. The housing that we have planned for development meets that criteria. So without doing anything beyond what we're already doing, we can get status as a pro-housing community, which then makes it more likely that we may be able to access grant monies that we wouldn't maybe be able to access ordinarily.
Okay, so thank you. Now, these grants, I'm going to presume that we go into the development. This will be state funded, I presume, and it'll also have to be advertised throughout 9 counties. And does that help?
No.
What does that do for the residents of Austin?
No, that's not. It's just how much. So this is not how much housing that the village itself is. It's how many new units are coming online, whether it's private developers, whether it's affordable housing, but it's not just the housing that the village is. It's just any housing that is being supported in the village through the permitting and land use process.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't just heard this now on a level. I myself a little bit like this. I've done fantastic job in housing for the years. So I'm gonna say, for me right now, I need to educate myself. So I'm not supporting on any of the.
I have a.
Thank you. I've been following the story and seeing I'll put it in more layman's terms. Last year, the governor tried to use a stick. This year, a carrot, try to get to the same ends. The fact that we are already, with the things that we are doing as a village, both village projects, but then also private development that is happening, qualifying for this, it's I think good. So this is, to me, simply reflecting the investments that we've already made as a community in trying to address this particular issue. And so, especially because it doesn't require any additional commitment to anything else, I see no particular downside in saying, hey, state government, here's what we are already doing, which qualifies us for this the status, which unlocks potential additional state money. If we don't do it, it doesn't change what we've already committed ourselves to. It just cuts us off from this potential funding. So I see no reason why not to support it, especially for a community like us. That's where I am.
I would tend to agree, but I'd love to read something about this, whether it's the qualifications or whether it's that, you know what I mean? Like if there's a link or something you can
Yeah,
send.
I surely can put that through to get that distributed. As I said, it's we already qualify,
Right.
so this is just checking that box so we can get the credit. It's possible that it could be helpful since they haven't made the decision on the $10 million. It certainly couldn't hurt, is what I was told, for us to apply. That said, right now it's not a mandate. Going forward, it will be.
The $10 million being the
For the
Mid Hudson Momentum.
yes. So
what is that? I don't know about that.
Mid Hudson Momentum Grant is a funding stream, new funding stream through the state that came down. It's infrastructure money. So we were able to apply for the new Indian Brook Reservoir water treatment plant. So we have a grant pending. There's no requirement that we're a pro-housing community at this time. However, they still have not awarded that. And they have asked us questions about our development plans and things. So going forward, the governor has stated that for all DRI money, for all future Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund grants, you will be required to be a pro-housing community to get those monies. My only point is we already are. So checking this box is just a way of getting credit for what we've already done. It doesn't commit us to anything going forward. And it probably wouldn't hurt since they still haven't decided on the Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund from this past year's round. So to Deputy Mayor Lopez's point, this is just checking a box to get credit on things we've already actually done. The first step would be to write a letter of intent. There is no I don't think there's any requirement to have a board resolution for that. So what I'd like to ask the board is we'll go ahead with the letter of intent. So since the decision on the on the Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund grant is imminent, and we will certainly provide the board members with additional information on the grant. And then before we go forward with any formal, final application and resolution for that, we will revisit.
And this could help us get this grant that's pending.
I was told it could not hurt.
Could not hurt. Well, that's very
but
similar.
Again, it's not, it's really just allowing us to get credit for things that are already done. It doesn't commit us to anything new. So if it can help, our thought was, why not? That said, the letter of intent, it's a process. So we get the letter of intent in. The application is a little bit more onerous, but before we go forward with the application, we will revisit this with the board, and I will make sure that the board has information on this week so that you can read up on it and answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
So, my point of view, and I've shared this with the village manager, is I guess you could say it's an incentive. I would say, to your analogy, this is not a stick and carrot. This is a big stick that failed in a big way because municipalities so deeply and widely objected to having this shoved down their throat, to put it politely. And this was all in the news. This is not a big secret, except for a few cities who benefit most from it, that this is just a smaller stick, because the incentive is if you don't do this, you get no money from the state. That is a different statement than a carrot. And I think municipalities don't like that either. It doesn't feel good to be told that you won't get we pay taxes to the state rejiggers it and gives it back to us. But we don't get it if we don't play nice. So it depends really on how you look at it. So it never feels good to me to do that. I don't care what size stick you use. And I think it's a problem. And so I never feel good about those kind of incentives, because I think the intention is not where I would like to see it. My actual issue with this is not who does what with whom, because it wouldn't be the first governor to do this. My issue is that I haven't actually seen anything in writing that says we qualify, because in the past, when we've worked with higher level governments, what we've done in the past, including the water plant, when we've played ball and we're ahead of everybody, by the way, worked in police reform, the same thing. Everything we did to the date didn't count. And I just haven't seen anything except verbally that says we've looked at it. And I usually trust the staff. So I'm not trusting. I don't have anything to look at that says, here's the 10 qualifications. It's okay. We go back 3 years. And yes, you do. I mean, the 109 units alone, I think, qualifies for a big part of that. Then we've got the others. So it seems logical, everything you're saying. I've seen nothing in writing. And I just need to feel like what Dana was saying, that it's more comfortable. Yeah, I have nothing against our governor, but this housing thing failed dramatically, and there's a reason why it failed across New York State. So I don't want to be caught in this sort of next phase of first failure. And I don't want us to be caught that we sent a letter in and that counts as a commitment, or that we can't get out of it. So I want to see the exit clause. I want to see where it says that if at some point we don't get it, that's okay too. Because so far it has not worked our advantage. And you're right, but a lot of it is we're going to have to match it. There's a lot of work involved. So I'm just uncomfortable with like the intent and then the execution. Everybody's supposed to go out with the intentions and then backtrack. And then we get stuck. Same thing in police reform. We end up paying for everything that came totally unfunded, right? And our taxpayers have to pay for everything. So I just want to see something that says, here's the 10 things you have to do. You meet them. It's okay to go back 3 years. And yes, the 109 units and this other thing, you do qualify. Therefore, you're not, you're good. Everything's cool. No worries. So that would be helpful.
Yeah, no problem with that. The reason I'm bringing this up now is slightly time sensitive.
Right.
We're expecting the announcement on the Mid-Hudson Momentum Grant yesterday, literally yesterday.
Right.
We're expecting the announcement. So because it could happen to any time, and because I was told today that it would help to have this in, I would hate to not check a box that would allow, that we've already checked, that would prohibit us from getting $10 million. Or, you know, if it's evidently there's 15 awards of $10 million that are pending, and it's I think more competitive than they had at first imagined. So again, what I'd like to do at this point, I don't know that we could realistically, not knowing when they're going to make the final decision, if we could apply, and I don't know that they would hold it against us because it was not a requirement for this round. Having a letter of intent in, I think there's no harm, no foul, because a letter of intent is just a letter of intent. It does, you do not, there's no requirement that you fulfill it. And if we decide not to, and at this point, that's all we would be looking at. And the requirements is 2 basic requirements. It's just, it's making sure that you're 1% or greater in the housing that you're proposing for the following year. So, and that's what's permitted and already in the and planned. So we'll get you all of the requirements, everything in writing. But I just was letting the board know that we thought it was prudent to just go forward with the letter of intent. If we can get it in sooner rather than later, it probably couldn't hurt.
Okay. So now you get the last minute calls and stuff like that, right? So I mean, I think the letter of intent is fine. I just want to make sure there's an exit at some point, so we're not committing ourselves to
Absolutely
to more pressure.
But I'm sorry, this is not first time that whatever the state agencies do, because we had the $30 million grant that we applied for the plan that they said, and came in and said that it was
an agency.
It doesn't matter. It was just a state. We're getting a grant where we said, oh, we have answers that we get in.
No.
Unfortunately, we did not.
That's not what they said. That's not what they said.
Okay.
So I just want to be clear. The
right.
$30 million grant was a very different grant, and we were
okay.
barely
So
qualifying
in
for
regards, for me is given a letter of intent, fine. Always a consequence. Always yes, with the state itself. So I don't feel comfortable doing this. And again, I don't have enough knowledge to even say the letter of intent is for me great to approve. Quote on it. So I'm very uncomfortable doing this, not having a lot.
I just want to be clear: a board resolution is not required for the letter of intent. But I do want to inform the board because and really it's the board's, if the board would prefer not doing a letter of intent, but I'd like to stack our chances as good as possible on a very competitive grant for $10 million. And if having the letter of intent shows that we are working in that direction, it will not preclude us. It does not commit us. It's not required for this, but I'm trying to just stack, just from the management's point of view, we're trying to stack the deck in our favor in any way possible, given a very competitive grant cycle.
Okay, so I think we've talked through everything, right? Everybody's got their opinions, their point of views. So the letter of intent is fine, but I think you're walking out of here that it's going to be that we really need in writing some information so that we don't commit to somebody that feels more like a push rather than a pull to get what we need.
Absolutely understood.
Okay. Anything else in continuing business is where we're at? I'm sorry, one new business, excuse me. Anything else? New business? No? Okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 11 minutes to 9. This concludes our meeting for today. We will be back at 16 Croton next Wednesday, 7:30. And I believe the Wednesday after that, the meetings are canceled. So just giving you a heads up early in the game. Thank you. Have a great evening.